I am going to now hand you over to Ali, who will take you through the webinar. Hi, Ali.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome today to our SME business briefing. As Nicole said, my name is Ali Donnellan, and I am a program executive and I am your host for this morning. We're delighted to have so many of you here today, and we really hope that you find this to be an informative session. The purpose of today's briefing is to provide you with an overview of the educational and financial supports that are available for SMEs who are wishing to embark on their energy efficiency journey and reduce their carbon footprint. So I'm just going to go through some housekeeping. So just to let you know, this event is being recorded and you're automatically muted, but we will be having a Q&A at the end, and you can submit any questions you have through the Q&A. Answer all of the questions at the Q&A, but if for some reason we don't get to all of our questions or we can't answer them, we will be sending out an FAQ sheet after this, and we will also be sending out a copy of the slides and also a recording for today's briefing. So I am joined today by a lot of people. So we have my colleagues from SEAI, scheme for energy audits. Ray will be talking you through our support scheme for renewable heat, and Conor will be going through the supports that are available for businesses who are wishing to swap to electric vehicles, and John will be going through our community energy grants that are available for businesses. And Shane will be going through SEAI's energy efficiency loan scheme that is available for SMEs. And as I said, we will be finishing with a Q&A at the end, so we will be endeavouring to answer all of your questions. So without further ado, I'll get started. So the first question that I would get from a lot of businesses who want to start on their energy efficiency journey is they don't really know where to start. And at SEAI, we strongly encourage that you understand your energy use. Understand how energy is being used in their business, and it's really the first step that you need to start when you're embarking on your energy efficiency journey. That is convenient for you, because we know with SMEs you are time poor, so we've really tried to create this to be as accessible as possible. We encourage CEOs and operational managers to join the Energy Academy, but really it's available to anyone. We know a lot of businesses that have rolled it out as part of a sustainability initiative with all employees, and also included with HR inductions, because it's really great to get all your staff involved. Businesses can save up to 10% on their energy use through behavioral change techniques, and you will learn these techniques on the Energy Academy. We have 28 modules available, from energy and climate change to office energy efficiency, energy and agriculture, to then more specific ones like introduction to solar PV, introduction to heat pumps. So there's really, we have a full range of modules that are available to kind of target everyone. I've included a couple of examples here on how the Energy Academy helps businesses. So, it's free training for your staff.
Ali, sorry to interrupt there. Just your sound is just gone there.
Yeah, sorry, Ali. Just to interrupt, could you maybe unplug your headset? And I think there might be a little bit of a fault with it. You're going in and out there.
I would be lying.
That's perfect.
Can you hear me now? I'd be lying if I would say this is the first time this has happened to me in a webinar. This absolutely happened to me before. So
well, you're crystal clear now.
Again. So when did I go on mute? Was it around?
Oh, I think we just went in and out a little bit, so maybe just take off from where you're crystal clear now, so that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So I was just saying basically about how the Energy Academy, helps businesses. So again, it's free training for your staff, which, can really help boost morale and improve staff retention, which, is a big problem across all industries at the moment. It'll also really, improve your brand image, because customers nowadays, they want to see that their businesses are taking steps towards sustainability. And, by joining the Energy Academy, you're really demonstrating that commitment. It will help you deliver cost savings. The Energy Academy will help you identify simple, no-cost, low-cost solutions, and you can not only implement these across areas of your business, but also your home, which will help you save costs and also reduce your energy waste and lower your carbon footprint, which is really important as well. The next step we would recommend for any business is to create an energy action plan. So that is why we have the Introduction to Energy Management training. This is a trainer-led workshop which will help you embed good energy management practices. So it's 2-hour sessions in which you will develop your energy action plan. And as part of this, you will also receive a free energy management guide and workbook. You can check out our SEAI Eventbrite page for when the next workshop is on. I run the workshop, so I can tell you the next one is on Thursday, the 2nd of March. We're kind of running one a month at the moment, and there's still spaces available, so I would definitely recommend you register if you haven't already joined one before. It's also a great opportunity to meet other SMEs who are on a similar journey as yourself, and you can swap a lot of tips. And then I've also just included some tips that SEAI produced. So obviously last year it brought extreme energy price impacts that affected businesses, and they're still affecting you today. So SEAI developed this some quick wins across key areas such as heating, lighting, electricity, manufacturing and equipment. And these are steps that you can take immediately that will help you try and mitigate your rising energy costs. I won't go through them today because there's about 25 tips, but it's definitely really good, and they're tips that you can implement straight away. So I've included a link to them, and I can send them out they'll be included in the slides after this. So thank you very much. I'm going to pass you over to Eóin now.
Thanks very much there, Ali. So I'm just going to briefly talk about the support scheme for energy audits. So this is an audit voucher scheme for SMEs. So it offers them a voucher of €2,000 to get an energy audit with an SEAI registered energy auditor. So we have a list of registered energy auditors on our website, so that we have around 140 on that list at the moment. So when you're applying for the scheme, you contact the auditor directly and you arrange the audit with them, you check their availability and agree the cost. So this scheme is open year-round for applications. To be eligible, you must be an SME, have less than 250 employees, and also then spend at least 10,000 per year on energy, which this is exclusive of transport energy. And then you also must have a valid CRO number and be tax compliant. And for further information, then you can find out more and apply online at the link there below. Now there is a limit of one audit per applicant organization. So just to give a brief overview of some of the sectors and some of the top recommendations that we're seeing from the audits. So the majority of the audits that we're seeing, roughly 70%, are in wholesale, retail, manufacturing, accommodation, food and agriculture. And then on the right then, so we can see the majority of the recommendations from the auditors are in relation to solar PV, LED lighting, energy management monitoring, refrigeration upgrades, and also renewable heat. So briefly now, I'm just going to look at two examples. So this is a supermarket in Cavan. So we can see here how the audit report on the right is laid out. So you have the energy spend, the current and potential energy spend, and then also you have the emissions then, so that's in tons of CO2 equivalent. And then the auditor will give a list of recommendations then, and it'll give like the energy savings per year, the emissions reduction, the cost of the action, the payback period, and then kind of the first step. So whether the communities grant exceed energy management training. So that kind of gives the SME a guide on how to approach these recommendations. So we can see here, like energy management system is the top recommendation. Solar is the second recommendation. It's the most saving, but it is quite a large investment. And then the supermarket can also avail of the communities grant then for 30%, with a potential 10% then from obligated energy providers. So we can see that there's quite a comprehensive list of recommendations from the auditor there. which would reduce this SME's emissions by 50% and then save them roughly €42,000 a year. And then the next example then is just a hotel in Mayo. So again, we can see that this similar recommendations, but they've also recommended a heat pump as well, which is quite a significant investment, but does have large annual savings then per year. So this is again with these recommendations. So you have a solar PV, heat pump, energy metering, energy academy. So they're all quite varied recommendations. But again, we can see that these recommendations would reduce their emissions and lead to quite significant energy savings per year then. And now I think I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Ray Langton, who will talk about the support scheme for renewable heat.
Great, thanks, Eoin. So just to pick up on the support scheme for renewable heat, and the reason we're looking at this scheme in particular is because heat is so significant from the point of view of greenhouse gas emissions. Now, every business is going to be different, but typically in businesses like hotels and even industries like breweries and distilleries, the energy portion that is used is typically 70% in heat and 30% in electricity. So heat has a huge amount of impact from a greenhouse gas point of view. And if you look at the heat for these type of industries, hotels, for example, it's fairly obvious where the heat goes. It goes into space heating, the large portion of it there, into hot water, and in a hotel into catering, so cooking, in other words. And the electricity can be much more complex. A whole range of different uses, everything from air conditioning, catering, swimming pools, cooking, lighting is a big one. So the key point I'm making here really is that heat is a huge portion for a lot of industries and a lot of businesses, a huge portion of greenhouse gases, and it's probably the single biggest factor in terms of a greenhouse gas footprint for these type of business. Now, obviously, there'd be other businesses that run cold stores and that type of thing that don't use any heat at all and will have a completely different footprint. But the most important part, as Ali and Eoin said, as you go through the process, is to understand where your own business is. Get a sense of the pie chart for your business. Is heat as significant as it is in a typical hotel? Or are you a business that doesn't use heat at all? Because if that's the case, then obviously the support scheme for renewable heat is not of relevance to you. So the big questions there in red are you using fossil fuel? If you're using oil or gas, and how much heat are you using? Relatively easy to find that out in a structured way, as Eoin said, through the audit, or just go through your bills. You'll figure it out pretty easily. And where are you using that heat? So build that piece of knowledge for your own business, because it's going to drive the actions that you take, and it's going to prioritize the actions that you need to take. So in terms of switching to renewable heat, then what's the big deal, or why switch to renewable heat? So as I said, for many businesses, heat is a big portion of total energy and can be the biggest single priority in terms of tackling of efficiency, cost, and sustainability. And switching to renewable heat delivers a huge reduction in carbon emissions. As a one-off, if you think of those graphs or the pie charts that I just showed you, switching for a hotel away from oil for that huge portion of their greenhouse gases, immediately with the one sweep of the brush can get rid of 70% of the greenhouse gases. So the support scheme for renewable heat is there to give a financial incentive to help you on that journey, to replace fossil fuel heating systems with either heat pumps or biomass or biogas heating systems, all of which are regarded as 100% renewable. And the support scheme for renewable heat is open for any business using fossil fuels. Now, I should say there's one or two very small exceptions. but they're quite specialized. You know, we don't allow heat of open spaces, for example, or outdoor heat, or heat for drying fuel that's going to be burned again. A few small exceptions, but any of the businesses that I've seen on the call here today at a quick look would be eligible. And if you have any doubt, just contact us, ask us. We'll tell you straight away. So how does the support scheme for renewable heat work? It's a hybrid scheme. So in other words, there's two different types of support. So if you go down the heat pump route, we call that investment aid, and there's a grant of 30% for air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, water source heat pumps, whichever type of heat pump you want to put in, basically. And there's a different type of support we call operational aid for biomass and biogas, and that's based on the heat that you produce. So we pay a tariff, a bit like the reverse of your ESB bill, basically. You put meters in, and we submit to us meter readings, and we pay you for the heat. It's ongoing quarterly payments for 15 years, and it covers biomass and anaerobic digestion heating systems. So either route is eligible from a support scheme from a renewable heat point of view, and it's really a question of what works for your business and what would be best in your particular situation. There's several case studies. I'd hope to show you some of the videos, but I would advocate they're quite short. Have a look at them yourself. We tried it on the webinar, and it causes all sorts of problems for us in the sense of moving from slide to slide if we go into videos at this stage. So there's a couple of case studies there. CJ Sheeran, they're a pallet manufacturing business in County Laois. They put in a biomass boiler and replaced 760,000 litres per annum of kerosene. So just think about that scale. That's a lot of kerosene in one manufacturing place, replaced with a biomass boiler. There's a case study there on the Radisson Blu, and Paul, the manager in the Radisson Blu, talks about his own savings there. Again, these case studies, the videos are only about 1 or 2 minutes, so do have a look at them. They're written up in a bit more detail if you want to find out more about. But the Radisson Blu saves 70% of their heating costs versus their 2019 cost. So a huge step change. And the Randalls Hotel in Kerry, a more comprehensive case study in many ways. It brings you through the whole journey. So a lot of the descriptions that Alison and Eoin talked about of really understanding what are their energy use, what are their priorities, and they went through 3 phases over many years actually, of looking at a whole range of energy saving options and installations, and got themselves to a zero carbon footprint hotel. So each of them are worth having a look at. They show examples of what can be applied, and hopefully some of it will be relevant to yourself. So again, just to summarize, if you're burning fossil fuels, you'd be crazy, to be honest, not to have a look at the support scheme for renewable heat. We've all got to get off the fossil fuels. So at that, I'm happy to hand over to the next section to Conor on electric vehicles. Thank you.
Very much, Ray. Thanks for all for tuning in. My name's Conor Edgely, and I'm Program Executive for Electric Vehicles in the Electric Vehicle Programme here. We are doing our best to decarbonise transport, and last year we grant aided 11,000 vehicles. We gave out 53 million in grants, 3.3 million of which went to commercial customers. So there's plenty of people who are in business making the switch to electric, and we've plenty of budget to support more. So it's time to, why should you get on board? Well, a lot of people like the lower costs that are attached to electric vehicles. You could save up to 70% on your fuel costs if you have the benefit of a night rate, and you can charge on the night rate tariff. But another consideration on fuel is volatility. And if you consider the last time you put fuel in your car and what it cost per litre compared to what it cost per litre 6 months ago, a month ago, a week ago, there's a large variance there that you don't get with electricity. While you do save significantly on fuel, it also makes it a lot easier to budget, which is feedback that we get from customers that is very valuable. There's savings to be made on maintenance too. There's a lot less moving parts in an electric vehicle compared to an ICE vehicle. It's much easier on its brakes. So you'll be replacing brakes less, replacing brake discs. It can be better for your tires once you get used to the driving style of an electric vehicle. A lot of people tend to burn through their first set of tires because they're not used to the extra power that comes with them. But once you get used to driving the car, it can make them last a lot longer. There's also savings to be made on tolls. You can save up to 50% on some tolls, and there's the lowest rate of motor tax to be available on passenger EVs. For commercial EVs, you still pay the same 333 per year. Another thing that isn't really in our program, but I think it's worth mentioning, is the accelerated capital allowances. This means that rather than claiming back over 8 years, you can claim it all back in the first year, and that's capped at €24,000 for an electric vehicle. So that's a big plus. There's also an image that comes with an electric vehicle. Ray can talk to you about his biomass boilers, but nobody knows you've got a biomass boiler, whereas all of your customers will see your EV out on the road, particularly if it's got company branding on it. It's a nice way of communicating that you're a forward-thinking, sustainably minded organisation, but you'd also get your biomass boiler too. There's environmental impacts as well. Obviously, that's what we're all here to talk about. There's no emissions, there's no noise pollution, but from an environment point of view, it's also a nice environment to be in for yourself, for your staff. If they're driving company vehicles, they're much more pleasant, they're quiet, they're smooth, and you'll see positive feedback without a doubt. Now that you're sold on the dream, how can we help you achieve it? Well, we support commercial vehicles with a €3,800 grant. That's N1 vehicles. And that's capped at €60,000. So that's the value of the price of the van has to come in at less than €60,000 to be eligible for that grant. Having said that, we've recently launched a new large panel van grant. That's €7,600 for a 3.5 ton battery electric vehicle. That's capped at €90,000. So you've plenty of choice there, and we've got new vans being added to that scheme every day. There's €600 towards a home charger install. That's for a domestic customer if you're having it at home. Then there's the VRT relief, which covers the €200 commercial VRT. And then for the passenger vehicles, the VRT is only 7%, so it's the lowest rate available. Another benefit for yourself or your staff is the benefit in kind. So at the moment, there's BIK relief on the first €35,000 of the vehicle. So you don't pay BIK for that first 35,000. That reduces to 20,000 next year, and I think 10,000 a year after that. So it is being phased out, but it's still a nice benefit, and it's on the lowest rate of BIK for EVs too. So before you buy, it's important to make sure you're buying the right EV for you. How do you do that? You need to consider the mileage each vehicle is doing. You need to consider exactly what you're doing as well, because a lot of people will just guesstimate what their mileage is, and they'll generally overcook it because of that fear of range anxiety and the unknown on batteries. But it's really key that you get the right EV for your needs. You don't need to spend a fortune on a long-range Tesla if something like a Leaf or an MG4 with a smaller range is going to fit your purposes. It'll be more efficient in the long run because you don't have to carry a big heavy battery around. We have a lot of tools online that can help you make this decision. If you visit drivingelectric.ie, one of the tools is the true cost of ownership calculator. That's got passenger vehicles and N1 vehicles, and that will show the cost of vehicle ownership over 7 years and the difference between that and running an ICE vehicle. And the last piece of advice I can give you is, if you haven't driven any electric vehicles, please get behind the wheel of one. The proof is in the pudding, and the dealers don't have that many cars to sell at the minute, so I'd be more than happy to see it and to take you out for a drive. Thank you very much. I'll pass you on now to John Flynn, who's going to discuss the Community Energy Grant.
Okay, good morning. My name is John Flynn. I'm the Program Manager for the Community Energy Grant Scheme. So the grant scheme has been around since 2012. Not a lot of people are aware of it, so hopefully I'll give you a feel for what it is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and how you might get involved. As I've said, it's around since 2012. The aim is to try and engage with everybody in society to come together and do energy efficiency measures. And what's that mean? We do, and I call it, we do stuff. We do lots of different stuff. There's about 18 or 19 different things you can do under the scheme which qualifies for support. Everything from brewing down to the weirdest one we've had would be pool coverings, which do save an incredible amount of energy. So we give consideration to all technologies once it's not specifically excluded. So what I'm going to try and do is give you a feel for what it is, how you participate, and at the end, a lot of people may say, yeah, this is great, but never actually seen this in action, and you probably have, you just didn't realize. So I'll hopefully give you a flavor for that at the end. But let's cut to the chase. What would you get if you were participating? Okay, so for business clients, you're going to get 30% of the cost of doing the measure. Ray mentioned Randall's Hotel. Randall's Hotel went through 2 or 3 iterations. Most of those iterations were with us on the community side, and then that put them in good stead then to dovetail in with Ray's side. And you can dovetail in with other supports that SEAI offer, and you can dovetail with other supports that other government agencies offer, such as leader funding and other fundings that other agencies may have. For the community groups, and what do we mean by community? Well, it's everything else that's not business. Your GAA club, your community hall, the church, for example. All of these buildings can get 50% funding. For homes that do participate in the part of the application, we insist on a number of homes as part of the collage. That comes to us, and that will be part of the application. The one-stop shop offering is exactly what we offer, so there's no differential between going to the national scheme and clients, domestic clients looking for grants under our scheme. But we're actually here to talk about commercial stuff, so I'll try and stick to that. So what does it look and feel like? Well, as I've said, we expect a collage of projects to come forward. So we don't take direct applications, but we have quite a large number of applications and quite a large number of operatives in the field. It's on our website, and they're more than happy to take anybody through the process, which does start with an energy audit. So as the earlier speakers were saying, it's important that you understand your energy usage. Our project coordinators are up on the website. I'll give you a link for that. And once they engage with you and submit an application, your application should take about 8 weeks to be evaluated. Once it's evaluated and you move into a contract offer, you're into about 12-month delivery cycle. That allows you and us time for delivery of large-scale, complex projects. So there may be times in your business when you down tool or repair and shut the place down. Some people do it December, some people do it in the summertime. So with a 12-month rolling contract, that facilitates your shutdown time. You can step in then and do your energy upgrade works as part of other maintenance and upgrades, and it doesn't interfere with the operation of your plant. Just to briefly mention, in the maximum grant that we would offer would be €5 million, but that therefore would be project costs of 15 to 20 million euro, and we have a contract this year for a 20 million euro project. It's in the brewing area. Just to give you a feel for the scale, in 2022 we did 24 contracts. Within that is 900 homes. There's 450 non-domestic projects, which is basically business and charities, sports facilities, recreation, everything is included in there. The smallest grant is €10,000. That's just because that's the way it worked out, not because there is no bottom limit on it. We will do very small scale if necessary. And as I said, the biggest one we did was €20 million. We'll do 160 EV chargers. We also support EV chargers as part of the rollout of the scheme. So some people put them in to facilitate their clients, customers. Some people put it in for their staff. Some people put it in as a service in hotels, and most of the EVs going in, the owner of the EV charger is getting a very small margin off the electricity price. So, I mean, nobody expects you to plug these in for free. Everybody knows if you have an EV, you pay a little bit for the electricity, and if you're plugging in at some client premises, maybe you're paying that little bit more, but that's down to the client. Project values €170 million, grant support about €64 million. So there's a lot of things going on, and I've shown you a very bland image because usually when we go out into a plant room, we see stuff such as this, a big box of electronics, very unsexy, but some boxes of electronics, that one is a cheap one, might be 100 grand. We've been on site and you see slightly bigger boxes, might be $250,000. So you've got all sorts of BMS systems in there, controls, drivers, all sorts of weird and wonderful electronics. But that's what saves the money. And as I said, sometimes it's not sexy to look at. So where do you start? The starting point is getting an energy audit, and you don't have to have an audit per se. It can be some sort of engineering assessment of the energy usage of your facility, and that can be done internally. But why would you not avail of the energy audit that SEAI are willing to fund and get an external expert in? Some big plant will use their own people, that's fine. We'll accept either on our side. There's a link there to the guidelines. If anybody wants to have a peruse through our guidelines just to see does it look and feel like something you might be interested in. Don't be daunted by the guidelines. They're written to guide and inform. They're 50 pages long, not particularly riveting read, but it just gives you a feel. For the first 10 pages, certainly give you a feel for what you should expect. Our list of project coordinators are really important. These are the guys who are going to take an application for you, put it in front of us, get approval for you, and then manage the process with you and deliver your project successfully and get you paid in the end. So I've talked about all the stuff that we do. I'm just trying to give you a flavor for the practicalities of what we actually do. A lot of people say, I've never seen or heard of this program, and I've never even seen it in my day, walking around the streets or whatever. You have, you just don't realize. Most of the retailers have either completed or about to complete an upgrade in all their stores. All that, for retailers, especially large scale, the biggest expense they have apart from staff is going to be electricity. They've got heating, cooling, and they're all trying to do it in one place. So you'll see recently the new doors, new refrigerations being replaced, as well as air conditioning systems being replaced in most of the retail stores across Ireland, and we have supported the vast majority of those. Hotels, and as Ray has said, massive energy users, and again we're looking at all sorts of weird and wonderful technologies, from heat pumps to biomass systems, heating, cooling, lighting. All of those systems require, especially with old hotels, upgrading, and again we're here to help. and we've done a lot of hotels, so we do have some expertise in the area. So again, if you're interested, please come and talk to us. Warehousing distribution, and as you can see, there's some warehousing distribution require cold store. So I mean, you've got that image there, you've got lots of PV, and PV is good for some industries, not good for others. So just be mindful about the technologies that you use, that it is appropriate. We profess a fabric first approach, so we really want the fabric and the basics done before you would look at what is a renewable technology from our perspective. Just on the other side, then for the communities, there's an image there of a local GAA club, and they look for water heating, flood lighting, fabric heating, all that kind of stuff can be done. And again, the GAA clubs are getting 50%. Your local church, and you might say there's not a lot you can do in a church, but there is lighting, heating, there's fabric upgrades such as windows. Some churches are poor repair, and again, it's an easy way of getting 50% grant for works that you might do. And as I mentioned previously, the EV charges are also something that we promote and push out on the scheme at 30% supports for everyone. There's no particular environment where we would not support an EV charger. So again, we've done this in our churches, we've done this in the GAA and sports facilities, and we're open to doing more of these. These are just some of the companies that we work with, and as you see, there's a number of large pharma, large production in concrete, the sports are obviously there, and large production manufacturing facilities. And there's nothing too small and nothing too big as far as we're concerned. That's it from me.
Thank you very much, John. Good morning, everybody. My name is Shane McCullough. I'm a product development manager with the SBCI, the Strategic Banking Corporation of Ireland. Just for those of you not familiar, I'll give you a very quick intro to who we are, given the wonderful speakers we've had from SEAI already this morning. SBCI is a different organisation in here. We're essentially Ireland's development bank or national promotional institution. So we're government owned. We're owned by the Department of Finance. And our raison d'etre, why we're here, is to help SMEs. We're here to help SMEs access finance, and we're here to help SMEs access finance at more competitive pricing, at lower interest rates, to support Irish SMEs when they're competing against their European counterparts. And just for a little bit of background, we're only about 8 years in existence, but we've already supported more than 50,000 SMEs with our loans, more than 3 billion of funding gone out. And an important part to understand in how the SBCI works is that we lend through partner lenders. So that's really what I'm here to talk to you about this morning, is how an SBCI loan scheme can help you in your transition towards energy efficiency in your own journey, how an SBCI loan product can help you finance that, and how it can finance that at perhaps cheaper rates than you might get elsewhere. An important part also about SBCI is we're government owned. We're here to help SMEs, and we work on a cost recovery basis. So we're not in this for profit ourselves either. We're very much in this to help the final SME. And the specific scheme I want to talk about this morning is the SBCI Energy Efficiency Loan Scheme. So this is a scheme developed 100% focused on helping SMEs increase the energy efficiency of their organizations. So I'm going to go through this and show who it works for, how it works, and where you go to apply for this. And at the end, I'll touch on some other schemes that may help those businesses that don't see what fits for them within this scheme as well. So what can EELS, we call the Energy Efficiency Loan Scheme for short, what can businesses use EELS for? A lot of the kind of investments and equipment that the previous speakers have spoken about in terms of solar renewables, heating, cooling, LED lighting, various equipment, catering equipment. This is all eligible through the Energy Efficiency Loan Scheme. One I might just call out there, you'll see EV charging points are included in the scheme. But apologies to Conor, we don't actually fund EVs themselves through this scheme, And the reason for that is there are a myriad of sources of funding available from manufacturers and dealerships and other lenders for electric vehicles themselves, but certainly the EV charging infrastructure is supported through this scheme. What does the energy efficiency loan scheme look like? So it's ranges in loan values between 10 and 150,000 euro. It has repayment terms between 1 and 10 years. And I suppose why there's that kind of flexibility in the repayment term is to enable and support different kinds of investments with different kinds of payback. So if you're doing something like LED lighting that's going to have a very short payback, you're not going to need a 10-year loan for that. The 1, 2, 3 year will probably be suitable. If you're doing a mixed investment with an element of solar PV, something that might have a longer payback period, then you'll want that longer repayment from the loan. And what we're really trying to do here is to help the business match as much as possible the savings from the investment with the repayment on the underlying loan, so that where possible, the investment will be cash flow neutral for the business in the short term, and it won't cannibalize your free cash flow to invest in other parts of your business. And to that end, there are also other features such as interest only or interest in capital moratoriums at the start of the repayment term as well. A very important point in this scheme, and one that directly reduces the payback period for your investment, is that this scheme has lower interest rates than what you will typically find in the market. So each of our partner lenders has to commit to having a rate of at least 1% lower than their existing SME rates for this product. In practice, what that means for this scheme is you're probably looking at starting at 4 to 4.5% as the interest rate in this scheme, and that really is significantly below what's typically prevailing in the market at this time. Okay, how to apply for a loan under this scheme. It's a two-step application process. So first of all, you'll have to go to the SBCI's website, sbci.gov.ie, and complete an eligibility application form there. We'll notify you typically within 24 hours, but certainly within 48 hours, of whether you're eligible to apply for the scheme, in which case you would then approach one of our lenders. So I'll go into this in a little bit more detail. So for that eligibility aspect, piece of equipment or machinery that you are purchasing needs to be something that is on the EEE register. So I know some of our, I think Conor had spoken about accelerated capital allowances. For those of you not familiar with the EEE register, it's a register of energy efficient equipment maintained by the SEAI on behalf of the revenue, and this serves as the revenue's list of approved equipment for which you can apply for an accelerated capital allowance and be able to depreciate that asset faster than you would otherwise be able to do. So any asset on this list, with the exception of electric vehicles themselves, is eligible to apply for an SBCI loan. So once you know which piece of equipment from this list you've chosen, you go to the SBCI website, complete the application form, send it in to us. As I say, we'll reply to you typically in 24 hours, but certainly within 48 hours, and then you're free to approach one of the participating lenders. So currently you'll see AIB, Bank of Ireland and Capital Flow there. Apologies, I should have updated this in the this week. We also had the addition of Fexco to this, and we will shortly be announcing another lender to the scheme as well. In terms of future updates, you'll note that this scheme probably isn't for everyone. The 150,000 maximum loan amount may not suit the larger projects, the bigger investments. And I would say to that end, we will have another scheme launching mid-year that will allow for investments of up to 3 million, and will also have up to 10-year repayment terms as well. So for those of you planning deeper, more complex investments, that may be something to keep an eye out for. Again, that will be a scheme that we expect to come to the market with lower than typical interest rates as well. And for that, I will pass you over to Ali. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Shane, and thank you to all of our panelists. We hope you found that very beneficial. So as I said, we'll be moving to the Q&A portion of our webinar. And I also should have mentioned at the start, we're also joined today by Dermot Stapleton, who's our Business and Industry Manager here at SEAI. So I've just been going through the Q&A. So I did see at one of the first questions was around a specific grant for SMEs. So I was wondering, Dervla, would you be able to comment on that?
Sure, yeah. So I think there was a couple of questions in around that. So yeah, the Climate Action Plan 2023 included a range of, I suppose, actions and around commercial and residential retrofit. And one of those is to look at the supports that could be put in place to incentivize commercial retrofits. And we're looking at that at the moment. So it would probably take the form of financial supports for probably operational controls, for example, say heating controls upgrades or some BMS controls, and potentially also investments or grant supports for investments in energy efficiency, commercial retrofit upgrades. The timescales on that, though, is probably looking at Q3 of this year. I'm afraid I can't give anything more specific than that. I can't give anything more specific around the measures that are being looked at. But that's where we're at the moment. We are looking at something, actively looking at it, and hopefully when we do launch it, it'll be with great fanfare, no doubt, and we will again certainly have a webinar and a series of briefings probably to go into the detail on that.
Great, thank you very much, Dervla. And then we had another question here from Joy. Oh, this is about how often can you apply for an energy audit? And I can actually see that Eóin answered that question. So there is a limit of 1 energy audit per applicant, and you can apply for the scheme once. And then we have a question here that I think will be for, just trying to get it here, for Ray. So if a building is a protected structure leaking heat, is a renewable heat system viable?
It can be. It depends really on the detail of it, but in general, a heat pump probably would not be the option in such a building, but certainly biomass could be. So very happy to talk to that person themselves. And, you know, as you said earlier with some of the other answers, an energy audit would probably point them in the right direction in that regard, but not heat pumps, I would suggest.
Yeah. Great, thank you. I also had a question, I think, about your presentation about getting to know the pie chart usage for business and the best way of finding out your usage. And Eóin also answered there as well that, you know, getting an energy audit, that would probably be the best step to get your breakdown of your energy use in a facility and really help you with the steps. That would be the first step, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Eóin is right. And, you know, the reason we're putting up the pie chart is really just to say to folk that whatever your business, you need to get a handle to an extent. You know, you don't need to be right down to the decimal places or percentage points, but you need to have an idea, where am I using my energy? Where's the priorities? Because otherwise, you could actually make the wrong decisions. You know, either put in investments that are too large because you're leaking all the heat out, or the other energy, the wrong lighting or whatever. So find out where you're using your energy, and that's the starting point as to where do I go from here, basically.
Yeah, and actually, Ray, we do have Ali went through the Energy Academy in great detail there, but we do have modules on the Energy Academy to help you understand your bill and understand the terms in your bill, and you know, it'll only take you 15-20 minutes to go through those modules. So I definitely recommend that's a good first place to start as well.
Perfect. And again, Ray, Rose is just asking here, so you had examples of big hotels that have gone through the support scheme for renewable heat, but do you know if there's been many small hotels that have gone through that as well?
There are smaller hotels. The only reason we have those specific ones as the example is that they were good case studies. A bit like John said earlier, there's no limit in terms of size. You know, it could be as small as a guest house. The principles are the same. And I would suggest that the pie chart, to borrow the previous question, is probably broadly similar, whether you're big or small. And what you need to do is probably broadly similar. But yeah, don't have a specific case study of a smaller hotel, to be honest. But we have had smaller hotels, and they're very welcome on the supports.
Yeah, we have a couple of case studies on our website actually, and we could probably add them to the slides around, I think, Hotel Doolin and Falls Hotel as well. Now, they didn't necessarily go through the support scheme for renewable heat, but they have gone through a journey towards becoming climate neutral hotels. So we could include those links to the slides, or on the slides.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then we had a question around EVs for private individuals. I could see, Conor, that you actually answered that. So there is a grant available for £5,000. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going through here. Other questions. I have a question actually for John. So is the community scheme still competitive? Has the budget increased and the conditions less onerous for ordinary applicants?
Okay, so the competitive element is being completely removed. It has been made easier to score your collage of projects in because the focus has moved away from cent per kilowatt hour and moved over to tons of CO2 being saved. So it is certainly easier to participate, and there's no restriction currently on budgets.
Great, thank you very much. I'm just going through here. There's a lot of questions flying in. I think this is a question for Shane. So are heating controls supported by energy efficiency loans? They can see that lighting controls mentioned specifically, but not heating controls. So are they supported?
To be honest, I'd have to look at the EEE register unless any of the SEAI colleagues know the answer to that off the top of their heads.
I think they are supported. I think there's new lighting controls or new products just recently launched onto the market, which offer very significant savings, and they're particularly intelligent, but particularly expensive also. So I believe they will be. They may not be on the register just yet, but that's up to the manufacturer to put them on the register.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is a question. Does SEAI have any plans for demand flexibility service for heating, battery and EV charging?
No, not currently is the answer to that.
No. Okay, perfect. And then how does the SEAI support scheme for energy audit dovetail with the Sustainable Energy Community Master Plan process? I think that that's a question for John or Eóin or Dervla.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, so the Energy Master Plan is very theoretical, whereas the energy audit is very site specific. So you're talking about a particular building. It's very detailed, and the energy audit is really what you need to put yourself, number one, to inform yourself as a business owner or a user of a building what it needs. That's really your starting point. The Energy Master Plan is very it's a longer distance. It's a wish list of stuff that could be done, and it's just not specific enough to give you also enough engineering information.
Perfect. Thank you. So we had a question here. Oh, so if a product is on the EEE register, is it automatically supported by the loan scheme, Shane? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. With the exception of the vehicles, I suppose it means that you're eligible to apply for the loan. You still need to go through the bank's credit application and their underwriting T's and C's.
Perfect. Thank you very much. There's a lot of questions here. I'm just trying to get through them all. So in relation to the support scheme for renewable heat, how is this calculated? Ray, is that?
Sorry, just repeat the question. How is it calculated? Is that the question?
Yeah, you might need some, I guess, I don't know, maybe if it's about how the application process. I'm not sure actually really fully. Maybe we could respond to that question.
Yeah, sure. Like if it's a question on the money support part, it's either the grant, as I said, which is a 30% grant, very similar to what John talked about, or the what we call the tariff is calculated on the amount of heat that's used, the eligible heat use, and as I said earlier, it's kind of like the reverse of your ESB bill. So I'm not sure if that's the precise question, but we can follow up if there's other questions.
Yeah, perfect. We have a question here. PV solar grants for both business and private homes. We can summarize what's available.
Yeah, so I can take that. I suppose it's two different grant schemes, but if you're a business, you can apply for grant funding for installation of up to 6 kilowatt peak solar PV panels, and the grant is capped at €2,400. And actually, for residential, then the cap is €2,400 also, but for 4 kilowatt. So it's all on our website. We can include
under the community scheme. Then the PV offering will be up to 200 kilowatts, based on a 30% offering, 30% on cost. Oh, sorry, 20% on cost, up to 200 kilowatts.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, with all fluorescent lamps being banned for sale by August, will the replacement of the same with LEDs still be grant funded?
Not LEDs are not currently funded under communities, but I'm not sure if they're funded elsewhere.
Okay, this is a question as well we can answer.
No, they're not typically. The payback on LEDs tends to be 1 to 2 years, so there's no one's real incentive for
no incentive. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think we've managed to answer all the Q&As, but again, as I said, we will be sending out a FAQ sheet after this, along with the slides and recording to the webinar. So if there's anything we haven't gotten to, we will after this.
There was one question there about a business moving to another.
Did I miss a question? I might have come in very fast.
It's okay. Yeah, there's a lot of questions, which is great. Sorry, I'm trying to find it.
Oh, an existing business moving to a new premises for more space, more capacity, and deterioration condition of existing business, would they be eligible for scheme?
So I suppose if you're talking about, I think that might be the loan scheme, the energy. Shane might be able to take that. I guess if you move into a new premises and you look to upgrade it, then you're eligible for support.
Yeah, under communities, we look at the building proposed. It's not about the business. It's about the building which is being now used, and if there's reworks or works or retrofit works required under communities, we would support those works regardless of who owns the building.
Yeah, and the same would apply from an SSRH point of view. If you're going into an old building that was using kerosene and you want to take that out, yeah, we'd be happy to support that.
Yeah, from a debt financing perspective, it's to the extent that you're replacing equipment, EELs may be suitable, but it's probably one of our other schemes, that one I talked about coming out mid-summer. We do have another credit guarantee scheme currently there at the moment, but we frequently see our schemes being used to upgrade fabric of premises and that kind of retrofit scenario.
There's a question also, there are rumours that there will be a standalone PV grant for business for systems up to 50k. Is that true? So that's probably been looked at as part of the commercial retrofit grant, but I can't confirm that is the case.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We're just at 11 now, so don't want to go over time, I think, for people. Thank you everyone who joined us for our webinar today, and thank you to all our panelists. Again, we'll be following up with a link to the webinar slides and also the FAQ sheet. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.